Good morning. I think I should be live now. So let me just type that up on Telegram. Telegram is having some problems connecting. Still not connected on Telegram. Okay, I should be live on Telegram as well. Good morning. The markets will open in approximately, 10-15 seconds. And the markets open. We have a pretty much a neutral open. We have been higher. This morning we had a phenomenal day in the DAX yesterday. As you will be able to see on the daily chart. Big push up yesterday. And here's the weekly chart, which suggests more of a trading range, but we've had 2 negative weeks now. And there seems to be a bug in the system on this chart that I've developed. Because if I go from a, say, 15-minute chart to a weekly chart, and then go back to the 15-minute chart, the overnight box disappears. And I just have to go in and activate it again. It's not a big deal, but it is nevertheless a bug somehow. The FTSE on a weekly chart is looking significantly better, and the DAX has continued to make new all-time highs, although it too has had 2 weeks of correction. That top coincided with the 72-week cycle. So still somewhat in the darkness on that one. So we got a first bar so far, first bar negative on the 5-minute. So while I'm waiting for a signal, let me just address something that I think is on your mind and is certainly on my mind. Thank you very much for the well wishes. I do appreciate you sending me kind messages, and I know that you mean well when you send me suggestions. Of course, every person is unique and each have their own circumstances. In my case, I have what's called a frozen shoulder, and as much as I appreciate your kind suggestions, they are perhaps not entirely applicable to what I'm going through. And I say that with the greatest of respect, of course. It is severely affecting my sleep. And so, for example, I've had, as far as I can account, about 90 minutes sleep last night. The night before, when you didn't hear from me, I slept 12 hours. The night before, 2 hours. The night before, 2 hours. So there's something wrong. I am in dialogue with specialists in plural. I am leaving no stone unturned in getting to the heart of it. But unfortunately, so far, all I'm getting from specialists is that you need to give it more time. Which, of course, as you can imagine, is quite frustrating when you are in pain and you just want to get on with things. All right, looks like we're going to have a first buy negative, so please stand by for that. I think what I would like to do is I'd like to execute it as an order, so I'm just going to put an order in just below the low, the current low, which is at 9423.6. So my order will, and just ignore that thing there. That is it's a marker trade. So the low is 9423, and I think no. How can I not be filled? I should be filled. I am filled. There you go. So I've bought a first buy negative in the FTSE. Let me just post that in Telegram. As I announced, as I made it very clear, it's in my intention to trade smaller size today. And until I feel better. Excuse me, I'm just going to get some more water. I don't think my chart in the FTSE is updating. Do you see it just says 9422? So I'm going to, here we go. And one more on my other screen. So the first bar negative is working. It's currently 7 points in profit. I will move my stop loss up. As a starting point, I usually risk 25 points, but I always aim to move it up as soon as I can. And I think I'll move it 5 points below the current low and take it from there. The DAX printed a first bar positive and is now has two negative bars, and we're trading below the overnight range. So we're coming down to what will arguably be an area of support, and you got the close of yesterday. It is entirely possible that we need to see a little bit of a retracement on this big push up from 23,600. We've basically just gone non-stop up. Perhaps if I showed you an E-signal chart. So here's it'd be fun to put on an exponential moving average. I know Al Brooks and his team, they use a 20. And if the market gets too far removed from the EMA, they believe that the market needs to allow the average price to catch up. So the average price is currently, well, before the open was 24,215, and we're currently trading around 278. So we're up here. This is I use a charging package. You see that here? It says delayed. It's because it's delayed because it's significantly cheaper, and I don't use this charging package for trading. I use it for research. But if I show you this line here, that represents where the 20 period EMA is right now. FTSE is doing its thing. Currently making me 10 points. To the guy who calls himself Phil K, thank you for your message. I am I'm feeling for you. Phil is saying, I had a calcification burst. I think it's called calcific tendinitis, if I have got my vocabulary right. I had a calcification burst in my left shoulder, he said, while performing a pulling motion. And it took 3 months. So yeah, do you know what, Phil? I would gladly take 3 months. I am on month 4 or 5. So, but I feel for you. So we're coming down to test the low of the overnight range, and surely a gap fill is on the cards. Although for all intents and purposes, we are at a gap fill. Let me show you. Technically, a gap fill comes in at 258 up here. There's certainly some hesitation in the DAX this morning. Bar 1 is a positive with a close of bar 2 below lower bar 1, but inside the range established in the hour before the market open, and we're testing the low end of that range, and buyers are stepping in. While the FTSE is dancing to a different tune. And I'm long FTSE in a rather modest size. But I thought to trade small size was better than to not trade at all. It's nice to have something to take your mind off what's going on. Can probably move that stop loss up now to break even. So I just click this button here. I'm 12 points in profit. So I'm just going to put stop loss to break even. I'll put that in Telegram. Thank you, Federico. It's nice of you to say. Pro stick. So still just waiting for a signal in the DAX. If I was a scalper, obviously I would want to be a buyer around 3 low, because there's support and it's close to the previous day's close. But so far the DAX is establishing an overnight range, sorry, a trading range. Excuse me, one sec. So to the person who's called NG, I suppose we can define our own trading range as we see fit. We do that up here. So you can see I put my trading range at 655, but I am entirely able to define it how I want to. I could also change the numbering if I want to. So there's certainly options. But by the way, I'm aware I haven't updated the most recent version. That's because I've been traveling. So to the person called W. Cups, I won't say the rest, can you tell me what it is you're saying? Isn't the close like 5 minutes too late in the software mine? Is that e-signal you're talking about, Mr. WK? Are you talking about this? On, I don't understand what you mean by the close. Can you? Oh, I think I get what you mean now. 1 second. This price you're seeing here, the 24,258, is yesterday's closing price. Yeah, and that is that data. I think my developer, he has gotten that from it might be Bloomberg or CNBC. He got it from somewhere. Just to see if I could find out. Okay, let me have a look at the bar from yesterday. So the close is at 1630. I think, you know, you see that that bar there, the closes at, and then it opens at, yeah, it does. But I think what happens is that there's some kind of settlement process. I'm just typing this. I hope that helps. I mean, you're making a good point. So someone here is asking me my viewpoints on order flow. I don't know what order flow is. I think sometimes I portray myself as a little more naive than that in fact that I am. I noticed I wrote an article after my experiences in Orlando with the other traders that I traded side by side with. But I decided that I didn't want to publish it, at least not until I had changed the wording. Because I think in this article I portrayed myself as a horrible price action trader compared to the likes of Al Brooks and Ali and Tim and Brad. And there is no doubt that I am not as competent a price action trader as they are. However, what I noticed with some of those that I traded next to, that there was also a far greater short-term mentality. And I think that played itself out significantly because we were trading live over 2 days. There was the Monday and then there was the Tuesday. And anybody who was present there on the Monday would testify that I had a horrid time. But on the Tuesday, when the market was trending, I was the one that cleaned up, and significantly so. And that's where the adding to the winning trades really paid off. And I think what that demonstrates to me more than anything is that anybody who's going through or struggling as a trader will be inclined to think that there is a correct way of trading. And if they had a losing trade, they had made a mistake. And I am, in this article that I wrote, argued that that is most likely not the case. Far more likely is that you're just trying to rationalize your losing trades as if you had made a mistake. When I came off stage on the Monday and I had lost, and there was also someone that asked me during the question time, during the post-mortem process, at what went wrong for your trading today, Tom? Well, nothing went wrong. Absolutely everything went right. It's just the way that I trade didn't work out under those market conditions. But you don't know that. One of the persons that was a trader on the stage, he made a very innocent comment to me. He said to me, sometimes I listen to your YouTube streaming in the morning and you take trades and I think, oh, please don't do that. And that in itself, you have to question that comment. That's why I'm not saying who it is. You have to question that comment, because how do you know what's going to happen? None of us know. To argue, oh, you shouldn't have done that, is in a sense an arrogant statement. And please, I'm really not pointing fingers here. I'm trying to create a philosophical narrative around trading. Oh no, you shouldn't have done that. Okay, how do you know? Do you know what's going to happen? If you take, for example, take the Dow yesterday. And I want to show you. Actually, I think I want to show you this on a 10-minute chart. So just bear with me. Yeah, there it is. So yesterday, I was trading a little bit for myself. And I noticed this minor top here before the market opened, and then the real market opened. Is that, no, I don't think that's the right. No, sorry, I'm getting the wrong. I thought it didn't look right. Sorry about that. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. This is perfect. So yesterday in the Dow, I was trading it a little bit for myself, and I sold short this double top here. So this was the overnight high, and the market had retreated, and then we came up to it just before the open, and I sold short here. If someone had said, oh no, you shouldn't have done that, that in itself is a strange comment, because the market will always be a battle between someone who has an opposing view to you. Always. So when you are absolutely certain that this is going to be a buy signal, there's someone who's equally certain that he or she wants to be on the other side of your trade. So when someone says, oh, sometimes I tune in and I listen to your stream and I see some of the trades and I think, oh, you shouldn't have taken that trade. That's a dangerous belief system to have, because there's an underlying narrative that says, I know what's going to happen. And so when I get asked by an audience that has just witnessed me lose my ass, and I did go up on stage, as I make clear in the article, I did go up on the stage and I traded. And I did that because I had been a guest at the previous year's event. I wasn't trading live, I was just doing a little speech. But I noticed how quiet it was throughout the entire show last year, and I thought, that's not what people have paid for. And so I wanted, even if it was a more marginal trade, I was going to take the trade no matter what, because I felt that at least there would be a discussion point, not entertainment, but there would be a discussion point, and that could serve as a stepping stone to learning. And so when I then get asked, oh, you lost money, what do you think went wrong? Well, the irony is that nothing went wrong. It was just that the way that I trade, which isn't scalping for, a handful of points, but to try and get, shall we say, that home run mentality, the trading on that particular day reflected how I go in. But if you are a new trader and you go through a day like this, you might be inclined to thinking, oh, I did something wrong. But the reality is that you probably didn't. Just like, when is it not a good time to sell short a double top? Oh, you shouldn't have taken that trade. You shouldn't have sold short there. Why? Did you know that this was going to happen? Anybody who says, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen, they're deluding themselves. And that then boils their whole rhetoric back to one very, very simple point. And that is that you can probably be a successful trader with just a flip of a coin strategy. But you just do need to have the ability to run the good trades and have a reasonable money management approach to the losing trades. Let's look at the DAX again. So what's interesting, oh God, I hate when I say that sentence there. So bar 6 is a bull bar, and bar 7 clears out the high of 6 and 5, only to revert back in. And this is just such a typical trading range environment that we're in. And that trading range environment, I think, was established by the price action that we are seeing in the final hour before the open. But I do perhaps think that there's an opportunity for lower prices in the DAX, basis on how it was trading yesterday. I think we got a school run setting up here, a school run short, think I'm just gonna take it easy and not take that trade. I'm not entirely convinced I want to be short. It just feels so trading range environment-y that I would rather sit it out or short if I see a momentum below 250. And again, obviously I'm making an assumption here. But one very distinct hallmark of a trading range is that you buy the close of bear bars when they close at the lows, and you sell short the close of bull bars. And so far, this market belongs to the scalpers. And the FTSE is just doing its thing. Can try and add a little bit to this trade by use of an order. So if I look at the 10-minute chart, I probably want to be a buyer down here around 933. Oh, that's too close to the current market. I'll put it at, there we go. There we go. So I'll put an order in at 932 just to add a little bit. It's not exactly where I want that order to be. I don't know how close I can get. 933. So I just placed the order just below the last 10-minute bar and just near the low of bar 3 on the 10-minute. Yeah, anything can indeed happen. And that quote belongs to Mark Douglas. It's just that it is we spend so much time studying charts, technical analysis, indicators, news, that it's difficult to completely align yourself with the notion that in spite of all of that information gathering, anything can indeed happen. So I don't know if you noticed this, but my order has been filled. So I placed a buy order in the FTSE just near the low of the previous second previous bar's low, bar number 3. So I'll show you on the see here, I bought at 9433, not a full size, I just added a little bit. The idea being a buyer at or below or near the low of the last little swing. This move here, bar 6, and before it pushed up to new morning highs. Yeah. Obviously it's an approach you can use for scalping as well. Not a whole lot going on in the DAX. You can see how we're establishing a trading range. Edin is asking me if I would do something with the third 15-minute bar because the second one was an inside bar. I'm trying to read the environment, Edin, and I think I'm staying away from doing the school run this morning because it feels like a range-bound market. At least for now. But looking at a 15-minute chart, you essentially have a symphony of 10 bars? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars that are all overlapping each other. And my add-on is just a little bit on the negative side. If you're sending me a message and you haven't sent me a message for a while, you're going to get an automated response. Just ignore that. It was basically just a sort of an autoresponder that I created in order to save myself answering people who wanted to sign up to the channel. So I received a message here that I think will be worthy of a mention. I'll read it out to you, because there isn't a whole lot going on. Hi Tom, I'd really appreciate it if you could share this message with your students. Well, I'm not sure you're my students, but sure. I'm not charging for this, just so anybody who's listening to this in the future, I don't have a structuring student-teacher formality. I go live and I trade live, and hopefully by doing so I'm able to inspire people in a positive manner. Anyway, this gentleman goes on to say, I always wondered about something in your trading approach. How do you manage to decide on some days to trade small size, while on other days you trade your normal size? How do you create that kind of dynamic self-awareness? He goes on to say, for me it's difficult. Sometimes I feel tired, anxious, or emotionally off balance, but I still end up trading full size, and then I lose. You seem to have the ability to recognize when you are not at your best, and you adjust accordingly. How do you know when to pull back? How do you sense it in yourself before the losses come? That level of control and self-knowledge I find both fascinating and hard to understand. Best regards, Mr. S. N. Okay. I don't know if I am the right person to speak about this, but I'll give it a shot. I track certain metrics in my personal life. The most important one for trading is my sleep. So yesterday I had slept really well over lunchtime, and then the US market opened and I thought, oh, I'm actually really in the mood for trading. And I went in and I traded really big size. And as a result of it, in spite of selling that double top, I had a really good session, really good US session. It didn't last long, but my God, did I make money. And if I was going to compare that to today, first of all, yesterday you also sensed that the market had momentum. That was an energy to the market that I don't see in the DAX this morning. So I suppose two factors has to come together. One, you have to feel good, which for me is directly linked to how I have slept. And I could go in to a long speech now about hormonal balance and hormonal imbalance, and screen light and light from phone and sleep quality and many facets that will affect the quality of your sleep, your deep sleep. But I don't think that the time is for that. But I will say that as I gotten older, those days where I could sleep the day away, as I could as a teenager, they're gone. I don't know if it's because of a hormonal imbalance, but this is a fact, and I know that I'm speaking to an audience that does have its fair share of people who are no longer in their 20s, but people who are in their 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s. And it is a fact of life for both men and women that as we go into our middle age, there are things that happens to our body. It isn't just women that go through that through their menopause, which for them is from the women that I know in my life, is can range from, yeah, it's okay, to that is an abject misery. For example, I have a very close family member who confided in me that she went to bed on a Monday feeling normal, and Tuesday morning she had never felt as bad as she did, and menopause had hit her just like that, so sudden and so hard. But it would be a mistake to think that men don't go through something similar. For us, it could, or it is, to some men more extreme than others, but we go through a declining amount of testosterone. And when you study the implication of testosterone on the male body, and what's really, really interesting for me, as someone who is quite tall and lean, it's interesting to read about how testosterone levels isn't just an average set about on a population size. And so, the traditional bell curve, and if you fall within the 95%, you are sort of within the norm, but that doesn't take into account what your testosterone levels have been as a young adult. If you are short and stocky or tall and lean, and it will very likely have been as a result of different testosterone levels as we grew up. And but anyway, that's a discussion that doesn't quite fit the narrative of what I want to get to. The point I want to get to is that I have found through my study that testosterone and sleep are linked together. Hell, testosterone and shoulder pain is linked too, which is interesting. And I'm seriously considering whether I should have my testosterone levels checked at a clinic rather than with a conventional doctor. Because the last time I did have it checked with a conventional doctor, I was told that I was well within the range. Then it could very well be that because of my lifestyle choices, I am perhaps prone to having a more active mind, because you're lying there in bed thinking, oh, should I increase my risk? I mean, at least for me, ladies and gentlemen, you must understand that I'm just talking from my vantage point. But my life and, shall we say, my role, at least my professional role, is very linked up to my success as a trader. And because I derive my livelihood from trading, it consumes an enormous amount of my thinking time, because you don't want to go and work for somebody else. I don't even think that anybody else would hire me at this point. But you're so it's like a hunter. You keep worrying, will I be able to make a kill tomorrow? Because if I don't, then what's going to happen to my livelihood? Will I be able to pay the bills? Okay, I'm somewhat past that, but I think you get my point here. I eat what I take down as my prey. It's a very hunter-gatherer kind of metaphor I got going here. And of course, when then my abilities begin to decline, cognitive abilities, or my abilities to, maintain the same pace during a physical exercise, you're wondering, well, is there anything that I can do to help? And it's not about the avoidance of getting older, but it's perhaps just how you're able to derive your output rather than just accept what nature has designed for you. And I have to be honest with myself and you and say, I will not accept that poor sleep quality. And so to answer the gentleman's question, when I have, and I track my sleep, when I have a strong sleep period, you feel good about yourself. And at least from my point of view, when I feel good about myself, I want to take risk. And then if I can then combine that with a move in the market where you feel like, oh yeah, I want to press this, I want to push the envelope today, I want to push the boundaries today, well then that's the holy unity right there. You feel good, you're rested, and the market gives you an opportunity. You want to hit it out of the ballpark. If you feel shit, or you're, as we are this morning, oh, Jesus, dear Lord. I mean, if you are a scalper, and if you dialed your mind into and tuned into this kind of scalping mentality, you're having a great time. You keep on to buy the negative close. All right, so you're a buyer down here around 260. Well, if you can get out around the old high around 290, it's 30 points in the DAX. You could have done that a couple of times. You'll be sitting thinking, Jesus, trading range is the best thing since sliced bread. While the rest of us that perhaps are essentially breakout traders, and the school run strategy and the aggressive school run strategy and everything that I do, almost everything I do, is derived around the argument or the necessity of the market creating momentum through a breakout. I am not enjoying this. Fortunately, I'm, at least this time around, quick enough to ascertain that this is probably not the moment where I need to bet on a breakout. That was a big leap around various topics. I have 3 friends, male friends in my life, that are on testosterone replacement therapy through injections or patches and gel. Incidentally, they each are on something different way of administrating it, but they're all seeing significant benefits from it. I myself, for whatever reason, I'm extremely cautious and hesitant. Don't you just love the DAX when it does what it does this morning? I mean, there are traders just like us, sitting looking at exactly the same thing. If I was going to take a trade right now, I would sell the DAX against a backdrop of 77 And I would have a stop loss at 97. I think we're going to see new lows on this push now. That's just me using a little approach that I have been working on, and that I will tell you soon enough. I promise you that. Ah, yeah. There was a, don't know if you remember this, but if you don't, let me take you back to it. Do you remember this day here last week, the 17th? Do you remember this? Where we had a big drop off the open, and then the market just went sideways for 4 hours. It certainly does look like a repeat, doesn't it? So this is not my thing to trade something like this. If I did, I would do it by myself, and I would scalp, probably trade much smaller size. I'm not even used to scalping. That's what I did notice about the other traders at the show. And we have to be careful not to brand people something. Scalpers sort of seem to suggest the idea that you're buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. We each have our own definition of what scalping is. And they may not necessarily be aligned with one another. But they themselves suggest, yeah, they're scalping. The FTSE is going through a somewhat deeper correction. What I would like to do with my stop loss on this tiny position is I want to put the stop loss where the stop loss is on the big position, which isn't a big position anyway. 9423. Because it doesn't make sense to have an add-on with a much bigger stop loss. And I think I'm just going to run that, ladies and gentlemen. And to be completely transparent with you, no, that's not the right word I want to look, to be completely what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm just going to say it as I think it, to be completely honest with you. I'm kind of bored of watching the DAX now, because I sort of suspect that this is going to turn into what we saw on the 17th of October. But it was nice to be back with you, and I'm sorry to have sort of left you a little bit by yourself in the last few weeks. If anybody listens to this and they are sort of my age, in the 50s, and they have contemplated or are indeed on testosterone replacement therapy, I would appreciate you reaching out to me just to describe your experience with it. If you are at all interested in sharing it, this of course stays completely confidential. That would be just for my own gratification, trying to learn and educate myself about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to leave you be. Just want to give you a status of what's going on. I have for my normal size, a very small position going on, and I'm about 6-7 points in profit. And then I had a tiny little add-on just for the sake of being true to form, adding to winning trades. And that's what's going on. And the DAX on a 5-minute chart, and particularly on the 10-minute chart, seems extremely range bound. Bar number 5 on the 15-minute chart attempted to break, but was immediately bought up, thus compounding the trading range argument. I'll leave you in peace, and I will rest up, and I'll be back for the US session later on. But for now, I will leave you to trade for yourself. You take care of yourself, and I will see you later. Bye bye for now.